Hello everybody, this is Hammer Striker here. Today I've got the first in Taurus's executive grade lineup. It's the 38 special chambered 856 executive grade. Please don't forget to check out our website. Go to our affiliates page. You'll find discount codes for things like Mantis Axe and Core belts. Link to that cool little bore light that we use for lighting up the barrels. Use those links. It will often save you money, never will cost you any additional money, and helps the channel. Thank you. This revolver is a first for Taurus. It's what they're calling the executive grade, which would be somewhat conceptually the same as Smith & Wesson's Performance Center. And everything on this is hand polished, hand tuned. They've actually got a dedicated production room for these and specialists that work on just these. So I'm sure some of the components like the basic frame and things like that come off their regular production line. And then they cherry pick it for the best of the best and then tune it further. Very similar to what Smith & Wesson does with their Performance Center. This has an MSRP of $689, which comes in about $250-ish over a standard 856. And as far as the 38 special chambering, all the 856s are 38 special. This particular one is unloaded. And while I've got it in this position, one of the tunings that they do is they camphor the cylinders, the chambers, so that it makes it a little easier to load the various rounds. And I did actually find this very smooth and easy to load. It didn't stand out to me necessarily at the range that had been done, but when I was dropping the rounds in, they just tended to go right in. And everything on this is smooth and polished. All the edges are very rounded. Everything is kind of hand polished, and they have hand tuned the trigger as well as other things. They come with these Altamont walnut grips, and they're really nice looking. Good checkering, really nicely polished. They're a little bit smooth, but 38 special is fairly easy to control. But one thing I notice is the controls, for example, to bring the cylinder out operate very smoothly. The ejector rod is super smooth. There's even a couple pins, orientation pins, to make sure that everything stays lined up in place. So they have really kind of done that hand tuning that they're kind of bragging about. And one thing I noticed is this was actually fairly easy to clean, which means the polishing is, removing some nooks and crannies that want to hold powder. And in an interesting note, this came to me from Taurus already cleaned and ready to go to the range. I still cleaned and oiled it because that's what I do, but the test firing that they normally do, and normally when you get any gun, revolver or a semi-automatic, it's dirty from the test firing. This was cleaned and ready to go. The sights on it are less than impressive. It's a black ramp, which is happily replaceable, and a rear gutter, which is, of course, is what it is. That's part of the frame. They do have an Ameriglow fiber optic front sight you can replace this front sight with, and I probably will. I think the mechanical accuracy of this thing is there, but it was near impossible for me to see the sights and pull tight groups with it simply because I couldn't see. They do have on the side of it executive grade stamped on the side, but it's kind of subdued. It just looks like a logo. It's not great big words scattered across the whole thing. So this does have that refined feel that they're tending to look for in that refined design. I was kind of impressed. Just holding it before I even took it to the range, I was kind of impressed. Refinement is not something you necessarily look at with Taurus. They make good quality things, but they're kind of machines. They're meant to be used as tools, and you don't usually expect a lot of refinement from a Taurus. But the refinement that they're bragging about did seem to get here. 7.5 inches front to back, it's 4.8 inches top to bottom, and it's 1.41 inches thick. It's not a whole lot thicker than some of the semi-automatics that I've reviewed. And of course with 38 special you can have slightly thinner chamber walls, and that allows you to make the wheel a little bit smaller and kind of streamline it. These can shoot plus P. They are rated for plus P. One of the things that is part of the whole executive grade thing is that the trigger is hand tuned. It is a DA trigger, and it is a concealed carry hammer, so there's no spur on it. It's a smooth. Sometimes you'll hear these called hammerless when they're fully enclosed. Style is not necessarily unique to this particular line. There's quite a few different revolvers they have with that hammer. Makes it easier to pull when you're concealed carry. There's nothing to hang up. But being a DAO, you're going to, of course, deal with the bit heavier pull every single time. So it came in at around 11.5 pounds, give or take. It's a little harder on a DA trigger to get an accurate measurement. But one thing I noted about it is it's quite smooth. So it actually feels lighter than it is. This doesn't feel like 11.5, 12-pound trigger. Nice and smooth from the beginning to the end, no stacking, no hanging up. It's consistent and it breaks smoothly. So I was really happy with the trigger. And again, I found other than the sights and being able to see what I was pointing the thing at, overall it was smooth to operate, easy to operate, and the trigger was comfortable. So they did do a good job with it. It does have a transfer bar safety, which is a little difficult on a DA to show you that because it's hard to get the hammer back to show it to you. But it'd be up behind, between the hammer and the firing pin. So as I pull the trigger, that transfer bar will slide up and fill the gap between the hammer and the firing pin and allow the hammer to hit the firing pin. As it sits right now with the hammer down, there's actually a gap between the hammer and the firing pin, so if you drop it and hit the hammer, it can't reach the firing pin. So that it is a drop-safe revolver by design. It's 25 ounces and it has a 3-inch barrel. And the 856 line in general is available with 2 and 3-inch barrels and an assortment of grips. But one thing I find with Altamont grips, everything on them is really smooth and they're well machined, and the texture and pattern looks well across them. Even though they're laminate, it really looks like it's real wood. And even on the muzzle end, everything is very smooth and polished. Really, I'm impressed. This is more than I expected from Taurus. Again, I've had a number of different Tauruses. They all work, but they tend to be inconsistent and not necessarily refined. This truly is refined. And the surprising part is it's not necessarily coming at a refined price. $689 for a performance-tuned, factory performance-tuned revolver is kind of on the lower price scale for what you'd get. You're not going to even look at a Smith & Wesson Performance Center for under $1,000 most likely. So they are going to bring that kind of factory-tuned realm to an affordable price point. The only takeaway I would have from this is you did a good job, Taurus. Spend the extra few bucks and throw a fiber optic sight on it so you can see what you're pointing it at. But beyond that, it actually is a good effort. So I do look forward to others in this line. So this executive grade this is the first of the lineup. They're kind of making it clear they intend to do executive grade on other guns they've got. I don't know if it'll just be revolvers or if they'll bring semi-automatics into the play. But I kind of will watch this and find an interest in this executive grade line from Taurus. After we filmed while I was in post, I realized two things that I'd failed to do. First, I'd failed to mention that everything is stainless steel. All the metal is stainless steel, the barrel, the frame, and everything else. But also, I forgot to show you the barrel, which I always do. And you see as I move it around, the rifling is very sharp, well-defined, and very smooth. There's no chatter marks, no tool marks, everything. So even the rifling, which is one of the things sometimes suffers on Tauruses, is actually very, very well executed and very sharp and clear. If you like our videos, please give us a thumbs up, share, subscribe, click that bell up there to be notified if you do. Check us out on Facebook, Patreon, Instagram, Twitter, Getter, we're kind of everywhere. And thank you.